Hello and welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. My name is Tom Webster.
And I'm your co-host, Rob Holmes.
And we have literally just got off of, the only way I can describe it, Rob, is wow.
It was a brilliant
session. This is like, there's not us just hyping it up because we want you to listen to the whole show, but genuinely one of my most favorite episodes that, well, we've only done a couple, but in my time doing podcasts, we had a guy called Remi on the show. Remi is actually, I suppose, a business partner of mine. So I've invested in a project that he's working on in Norwich. So we got connected there, and I really like him. I just think he's a really nice bloke. But his story's interesting. The projects he's working on is interesting. And the tangents that this conversation go on are super interesting.
Yeah. He's real as well.
Yeah.
He's real. He's humble. He's real. He's a developer, a property developer that doesn't even think he's a property developer.
Yeah. So what's the tagline on his Facebook page?
I'd have to look it up.
It's like an aspiring property developer or something, but he is a property developer. He's doing some fantastic projects. So he's doing some new build projects. He's had some renovation stuff, and then he actually gave us a tour because he's in what we call the arena. So the project is a indoor football facility and boxing gym, and he's given us a tour. So for those of you that are listening to the podcast, we try our best to be as vocal about what you can see. So you got to use your mind's eye to sort of experience what we did. But those of you watching on YouTube, you get to see the whole thing. Or another thing you do, if you listen to the podcast, pop on their Instagram, which I'm probably going to get this wrong, so I'm going to try my best to get it right, but I'm pretty sure it's at the arena NR7. Has it got a in front of it? I'm pretty sure. But if not, just literally Google Arena Norwich or hunt me down and I can forward it on. But you'll be able to see it there. So he gives us a tour, explains sort of where he's come from, the history he's had. We go on a real big tangent on a conversation where we talk actually about hallucinogens and ayahuasca and LSD and
minimalism.
Mindset. Yeah, and a lot on mindset and the authenticity and being you. So just a quick sort of disclosure, so we can't get sued on anything, is we do talk about hallucinogenic drugs, and we don't want to be promoting drugs. We don't want to pretend that they're fantastic for everybody. But the conversation we do have, we think is enlightening, as a conversation that I think does need to be had. I think it's a conversation that should be in the zeitgeist. People should be talking about this stuff. So please take the conversation as what it is. It's three blokes having a chat about something that we've all experienced in some way or another. But you need to make your own decisions on how you see that in your life, or if it's right for you or if it's wrong for you. But that isn't us telling you what to do or how to experience it. Are you listening, Rob, or are you on your phone?
I'm listening.
No, you're not.
I'm staying quiet. I'm letting you do the disclaimer.
Let me yeah. You probably want to do one as well in case you get sued. So I'm covered now. Can't sue me. I'm out.
I'm vicariously covered under your public liability insurance.
What else do we talk about? So Remi's life is really interesting. So he bought his first property really young, went traveling, got into property from being a plasterer. Obviously, he'll tell this story. I'm obviously just giving you a bit of a quick summary. But I think, we talked for an hour and a half. So that says a lot. And the conversation didn't stop. It was flying. We could have carried on. And we stopped recording, and we did carry on for a little bit because he is that interesting. So I think you're all going to really, really enjoy this one. Is there anything you wanted to add into that, Rob?
No, guys, just have a listen. I suggest you listen on the podcast. Also, get yourself on YouTube if you want to have a look around the arena as well. And what I really liked about this guy is, like I said, he was real. He was down to earth. There was no fakery about him. There was no BS about him. And it's someone that I think, you can aspire to be a little bit alike.
Yep, I agree.
And we talk about things like Facebook and flashiness and material things and actually get down to the nitty gritty of what you want from property and how that can help you get what you actually want and what you need, not what you might think you want or that you might think other people think you need to have,
Yeah, that's really.
That sounds probably a little bit cryptic, but you need.
But no, I think it's a really nice touch. And just from us, so obviously remember to subscribe to the show. Please, if you can, pop a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you're listening to us on, because it makes a massive difference for us. So the more of you that listen and share and get involved in what we're doing, that we can just keep getting these great guests on, and we can just keep going and building and building and building. So we really do need your support. So thank you for that. If you want to follow us, all the socials at Podcast Property. We've got a new website, so I've just refreshed it. The brand is going to come soon, but we've now got a new functioning website. So it's, again, podcastproperty.co.uk. propertyinvestorspodcast.com still works, so you can still catch us on everything. And we've now set up email address for me and Rob. So if you want to get in touch with us directly, it's Tom or Rob. I'll do it properly. So it's Tom at podcastproperty.co.uk or Rob at podcastproperty.co.uk. And then obviously you can get in touch with us personally as well. But that's enough of me promoting and doing my marketing bit. So enjoy the podcast that we have just recorded with Remi. Hello, Remi. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much. You have a good weekend?
Yeah, I did actually. Do you know what? This weekend, my phone was pretty much off. I'm having a week off social media, so I deleted the social media apps just for no reason, really, just as a little refresh. But yeah, it's a nice weekend, really chilled, done some work on the camper van. It's good. How about you?
Yeah, nice. Actually, not too dissimilar, to be fair. We've got a camper van as well. So me and Ems were just doing some tidying up stuff, ready for like putting it to bed for the winter. Dad's birthday, it's a little bit there, and yeah, no, it's a good one. What did you do anything, Rob?
Well, I'm sat here, got camper van FOMO right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you this, Tom, but Remi, like, we're soulmates already now that you've got a camper van. I really want to get an American school bus.
Oh yeah.
And I want to import it to the UK and turn that into a camper.
Amazing.
That's big in America, right? But I want to keep it looking the yellow American school bus look.
But there's we have had that conversation because there's that there's like that documentary film sort of thing.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yes, yeah.
Expedition Happiness, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man.
Cool. You can't watch that and then not want to get a camper van at the end of it.
Impossible. Scientifically impossible.
It's kind of property related, right?
It's a home.
Yeah, exactly.
On wheels.
You know what? Doing it up, you refurbing it.
As a bit of a laugh, when I first bought it, I put on my Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram, that's where I hang out, and I put that as my first commercial conversion. Commercial to resi.
What we usually do, mate, is we like our guests to sort of introduce themselves. Obviously, we know each other, but let's share it with the world. Starting from childhood, really, just give us a full story of where you've come from, what you're up to, who you are, and crack on.
Okay, yeah, my name's
how long have we got?
So my name's Remi. Me and my business partner, we have a company called Durrell and Wolf, which we started last year, property development and investment company. Prior to that, I've done a few houses in my own name, taken advantage of capital gains allowance, building up some equity, basically put most of that into the business. We have investors. We use private investors, give them a fixed return on their money. We go off and do our projects. We done a refurb that we finished the beginning of this year. Halfway through is when this whole situation in the world started to happen. So obviously we had a few challenges there. And we're now drawing to completion of our first new build development. And we're also in conveyancing with buying another plot of land for our second new build development, which is 2 houses. So yeah, we're growing. That's quite nice. On a more personal note, my history was in construction. I was a plasterer on and off for like 10, 11 years, but I've done a bit of everything, to be honest. I'm what you might call like a bit of a wheeler and dealer. So there's
the saw that we were presuming. Before you carry on, so explain where you are right now and why the saw is on in the background.
So at the moment, we literally just spoke about. I've heard it like twice this whole morning, and then I was like, So I'm just recording this from the arena, which is a project that Tom's also involved in. It's going to be Norwich's only indoor football facility. And we've got Ryan here, and he's currently fabricating the metal fencing that's going to separate the pitches from the spectator area. So he's doing the odd cut, and it was sod's law. It came on right pretty early on in the podcast, but there shouldn't be too many.
What we're going to do later as well. So for those of you that are watching us on video, Remi's actually going to give us a tour of the arena. So it's looking like, because I went up last Friday and it is looking sick. So it's going to. Here he goes. So anyone that's in listening, apologies for the saw, but it adds a little bit of little bit of
Authenticity.
ambiance.
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 Oh yeah, you got to say it with the accent.
So where did you leave off? I think you said about plastering for 10 years. Off and on.
So I was sort of off and on. So I, like, for example, I went traveling for a few years. I ended up living in Thailand. I was a diving instructor for about a year. Before that, I put myself through. I went back to study. I'd done a business management degree, but I was slightly older. So I used my student grants to pay my mortgage at the time, which is pretty handy. But when I was younger, when I bought my first flat with a mate, I basically paid for that. When I was younger, I had like an eBay business. Basically, I was importing stuff from China, selling that on eBay, but also to people in Norwich. I'd buy and sell anything really, mate. Yeah, I was just a bit of a Dell boy, so to speak. Still am really. I like a deal. It's just we're working our way up in the housing sector, opposed to some small ticket eBay items.
God, so give us a story. So the China stuff. So how did you get involved in that? What sort of stuff was you bringing in?
I don't know how open I can be on this podcast.
What legal things did you bring into the country? Was that end the conversation?
Ends the conversation. I didn't really realise it, mate. To be honest, it was a funny thing. I just got put onto some counterfeit clothes. Someone who I know done it, and this was back in the day on eBay.
It's all right, mate. We'll edit all of this out.
We won't.
I tell everyone, like, because back then, this was when eBay, it was allowed. Like, to me, I was 16 when I first started. I'm just a young kid on eBay, man. I'm like, well, if I can buy that and sell that, then this platform's letting me do it. I didn't really see anything from it. And then I just thought, well, how can I get these cheaper? So I started to reach out to factories in China, and I was just importing them from China. I was about 17, 18 at that point. But was making quite good money, to be honest.
I bet you were.
really good money for the age. And then I tell you why I stopped was when I realised it was frowned upon by the law, let's say. I basically got 200 pairs of Ugg boots seized at customs, and they sent me a letter and stuff. There's the saw again.
Yeah.
Barely been going all morning. But yeah, so once I realised that, I just stopped doing it. Yeah, I didn't really realise I was going to get in trouble. So, but yeah, that's where my sort of business kind of mind. So
you've definitely got
started.
that kind of entrepreneurial.
Sorry, you boys carry on. Talking about interruptions, now got the door going now.
There we go. Yeah, mate. Yeah, I've always kind of had even younger than that as well. I used to do some other bits and bobs, just random stuff. But yeah, I've always kind of had it in me.
So how long were you doing the eBay stuff for?
About 4 years, I think. 5 years.
And so, if you don't mind, like, letting the listeners know, kind of, what did you build that to? Kind of like as like a monthly turnover, monthly income.
Being so young, I weren't treated to that as business as that. It was just, but for example, like we were selling at Christmas, we'd be selling about 1,000 pairs of Ugg boots a year at Christmas. So it is a pretty decent sized operation. Like I say, looking back now, it's funny, but like, yeah, at the time it was kind of all seemed normal on eBay. Like a lot of people would do it. It was like a pretty normal thing. They weren't all authentic listings and stuff like that. They weren't banning fakes. It was just how it was.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but selling 1,000 pairs of something at Christmas is pretty good going for kind of a 16, 17-year-old just playing around on his laptop.
Yeah. It was pretty good. Me and a friend were doing that, and that basically paid. 1 second, I'm just actually going to ask Rice. He's not been doing it all morning.
The professionalism of this podcast is through the roof.
I've heard it like a couple of times all morning, and then here he is like 3 or 4 times in 10 minutes.
Joe Rogan wouldn't put up with this shit.
No, I'm going to tell you. Do you know who I've got on the laptop? 1 second.
I just say that the interruption was well on theme as well, because the missus has just bought a compressor fridge for the van. So if I'm going to get interrupted, at least it's on par with the subject that we're talking about. Yeah, Remy, I was just saying that the door that just went, that was the missus has just bought one of those compressor fridge or compressed fridge or whatever it is for the van.
Yeah, for the GAD. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's on theme. So I got, my distraction was on theme, and we're also getting a swivel plate. So that the front goes around, makes it like a proper little lounge area.
Yeah. What have you got? What van have you got?
It's got like a transit, what do you call it? Long wheelbase custom thing.
Oh, decent.
It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful van. She's done so well on it.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Right. So there's all the distractions. There's all the. All right. Let's get back to being professionals.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, we were just talking about my little eBay phase when I was younger. But yeah, that sort of gave me the capital to purchase the first flat I got with my friend.
And was that you okay with numbers on that one?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that weren't an investment. That was, we were just young and buying somewhere to live, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny. The day we put the offer in, I was 21 at the time, and I looked fairly young. And we pulled up in our shorts and flip flops. She wrote our details on a bit of envelope. And the next day when I rung up to put an offer in, they were like, "Oh, can we just have your details again?" They literally just threw them away. Yeah, it's quite funny. But we bought that. That was a new build flat in the city. It was gorgeous. It was we had 20-foot tall ceilings. We had the top floor one. That was 132,000, and we put down a 25% deposit.
See, that's good going at that age to have 25% deposit. That's really strong.
Between two of us, that was like 16 grand each, I think. And at the time, I don't really know where I got the money from, to be honest. Yeah, do you know
Ugg boots, mate. That's where 1,000 pairs of Ugg boots.
Yeah, that sort of thing. We just got away through it. And then he actually bought me out of my half, and I went traveling with that money and spunked it all up the wall, to be honest. Had an amazing time, went all around, done some amazing things.
Did the full George Best, was it? I spent all my money on booze and women, and the rest I wasted.
100%. Pretty much. You're supposed to travel and see all these cultural things, but when you're a bit younger, you just party, really, don't you? But no, it was good, great experience. And then so I came home from traveling after living in Thailand for a while, with my then partner. We're separated now, but she sold her flat. She was Russian. We worked at the same dive school. Came back to England. She sold her flat, basically because I was self-employed. And obviously from being traveller, I didn't have any books or anything.
Yeah,
I was lucky enough. My mum and dad don't have a mortgage. They'd paid theirs off, so they allowed me to get a mortgage on their property, which obviously I pay for. And then that gave us the cash to then buy somewhere and do up. And where we went from there, really.
That's where the journey started.
What kind of made you have that click moment where you decided to do property as an investment and start making money from it and taking it seriously?
I've always, do you know what? I'm a big believer in visualization, hugely. And I've, to my core, always knew that I was going to be a property developer. And I just don't know. It's just always what I knew I was going to be. I always had this picture of myself when I was older, and I was just going to be a property developer, driving a Range Rover. That was just it. There was no if, buts, or maybes. That was always going to happen. And then it just slowly kind of, I mean, I don't have a Range Rover, but it's not yet. It's slowly fallen into place. So I wouldn't say there was a kind of a click moment, but there was a moment. So we bought the first bungalow we bought originally was going to be to live in. We bought that for 132,000, a semi-detached bungalow in a small close in a nice little suburb called Sprowston in Norwich. I'd done all the work on that myself, pretty much, help from friends or advice from friends, family chipping in. But I was a plasterer. I had 3 guys at the time working for me as a plasterer. And then in the evenings and weekends, I was just doing house stuff. But serious penny pinching. We didn't really have the money, to the point I was driving and picking up blocks that 5 or 10 blocks that people had laying around to just put in. Do you know what I mean? Really So I'd done that for not a lot of money. I think I spent about 40 grand on that in the end. But that's not paying myself, obviously. And in the end, we got it valued. They come round and valued at 250 grand. And we were like, shit, man, can't turn that down. And actually sold it in the end for 271.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a nice, I think I walked off with about 95 grand from that one. And it was like, shit, there's some money to be made here. So we then bought another one, which was honestly round the corner. It was the other side of the park that we lived at the back of. We bought that next one for 170, spent about 30 on that, sold that for 235. But we had some really fancy holidays, done a lot of the stuff I probably shouldn't have done when you first start earn a chunk of money. I until not that long ago, I was quite materialistic. I'm very much not now. I'm a bit of a hippie now. I've literally, mate, this weekend I just went and bought. I got a big Del Boy jacket. I got it from the charity shop for 20 quid, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so let's talk about it. So where was the switch? How did you go from one to the other? Because I know, that's a big change. That's a proper characteristic change.
Yeah, huge. I actually talked about this on another. It was a bit of a shock to someone. So I don't know what, but it was psychedelics, to be honest, mate. Ayahuasca specifically. I've obviously heard about it for years.
You're in good company.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting chat. But yeah, I'd heard about it for years and years. I planned on going to South America, ended up being offered a job in Thailand, so I stayed there, never went. Anyway, met a guy one day who's a plasterer who'd just done it. That turned him vegan, and he just like completely changed. He'd been in and out of prison for years. Now he's like, honestly, he's an amazing guy. And he put me on to the guys in England who are doing it. So I went and had a ceremony, and
where was that?
It was in Southend. yeah. You know,
the hippie mecca.
Yeah, the mystical place known as Southend. No, it's beautiful. They had a beautiful big house, huge conservatory, and it was all done in there. A very ceremonial experience. Huge respect for the plant, so to speak.
Did you have like a shaman and all of that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Full on. Yeah, they've been over there, trained for like 13 years in shamanism and stuff. But yeah, and that so I had, for example, I had quite a nice watch at the time, and I'd done that, and I was like, what the fuck have I got this watch, man? So I left that and sold it. I had some fancy trainers, sold all that, and I was like, it's all just stuff.
So how many ceremonies did you do?
I'd done 2 nights.
Yep.
Twice.
So one night, one the next night.
Yeah, but then now, so 2 ceremonies, so one night, one the next night. I've done that twice. So I've done 2 lots of 2 nights.
Yeah, got it.
Spread over 2 months.
Yeah, so 4 ceremonies in total.
Yeah, and then I've done quite a few mushroom ceremonies as well, which is a very, very similar experience. Honestly, I've probably got more from the mushrooms than the ayahuasca.
That's interesting.
So tell us about the journey, as they call it, and what you experienced that made you kind of realize that things weren't important to you.
Do you know what? So I had a bit of a funny experience in regards to the journey itself. I've now discovered I've got naturally quite a high tolerance for psychedelics, and ayahuasca is a similar thing. And the first evening I struggled to even get anything from it. I had like 3 cups. Most people have like 1, and and I didn't really get much from it. The second night was a little bit deeper, but again, very, very subtle. Not a lot. A lot of just thoughts. When I would start to have visuals, my brain, I'm a very logical thinker, and my brain would logicize what I'm seeing and tell myself that it's not real, and then I would snap out of it. Mm-hmm. So then I went back. I was a bit more relaxed, but I didn't have a super, super deep experience. It was more the after effect. It was very subtle, very subtle. It was the after effect, and I just start to question like what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and who we are, and just have more. I've always had a fairly decent perspective of who we are as a species, like, and where we are. Like, we're just on a fucking rock, mate, like floating through an infinite space of who knows what, and we worry about whether we've got a pair of Nike trainers or a pair of Dunlop plimsolls. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I've always had that, but I've not really understood it much. But this just made me understand that our place in space and time, and how irrelevant all of our societal things are. Yeah, it was very subtle. It came on over days and weeks. It just kept sort of doing this work internally. And the shaman said that basically that gives you what you need, and you don't need a visual trick experience of it. It's going to slowly do its work after the experience. And that's exactly what it done. Exactly.
It's literally called plant medicine, isn't it? So
there we go. So you've had an experience then, or is it Tom?
We both had different experiences. So
go on then, talk to me.
So Rob is ayahuasca, and I suppose Rob will talk about that. But I did LSD, and mine is actually a really funny story. So I did LSD in Butlins.
Wow. Terence McKenna would be turning in his grave right now.
So it's on one of those adult weekender things, and we was in this room, and a mate of mine is proper hippie, really nice guy, and he was like, right, do you want to try? I was like, yeah, go on then. Like, I'm in a good place. Let's go for it. Like, I'm with good people. So I did it, and then I probably about after an hour, I started getting the giggles. It started being really funny, and I'm like, this is hilarious. I love this. I'm literally sitting there going, they need to give this to kids in schools. This is the best thing ever. Like the whole world needs to do this. You need to unlock this part of your mind. I went through all of that. Yeah. And then I'll fast forward because it's a very long story. And then after about 8 hours, I'm like, I'm exhausted. And the only way I can describe it to people listening is like watching an action film where the action scene lasted 8 hours. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is great, but I'm done. Like, where's the end? So I'm like, so far, I'm going to take myself to bed. So I went to bed, and it's in a bunk bed. So I'm on the top bunk in this bunk bed, and I've lied down. And honestly, it's like the whole of the sheet just enveloped me, like the most comfortable I've ever been. And I could feel like my blood running through my veins. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Da, da, da. And as I'm falling asleep, I then sort of like feel like I'm turning my body off, and then I panic, and then I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't wake up? What if I die? And then my brain just literally goes on this like journey. Yeah. And then what happened was I must have looked like a madman, because I was asking myself questions and giving myself the answer, and then convincing myself that it was the truth. So I was like, well, if I'm already dead, then no one's alive. And if everyone's already alive, and then mustn't and I'm like rocking. And then what I got to the point where I was like, so if I'm already dead, then I've created reality, and my brother's not real. And then I panicked. I was like, I don't want my brother not to be real. Like, I love my brother. He has to be real. And then I was like, right, well, I need to go and speak to somebody. So I've jumped off the top bunk, and as my feet have hit the floor, everything has stopped. And like all like reality disappeared, and it's pure white, like nothingness. Mental. And I'm floating consciousness. And at this point, I've then convinced myself that I'm God. And that I've created all of human history and existence.
You know what? I think it's because of stories like this that LSD is illegal, Tom.
Yes, it is. But then because it was so bad, I've never ever touched another hallucinogen again. I was like, I've got everything I needed to get out of it. I like the lessons, the reality, everything I wanted to get. And then I had the real horrible thing of like, it was a bad trip at the end. And now I would actively say to people, like, I wouldn't recommend it. Like, me personally, the experience I had, it was so scary that I couldn't go forward and recommend it. So I've gone from a place where I was like, give it to kids to a point of like, I just couldn't. But that was because I got the journey that I actually feel like I needed. At the time I was watching a lot of like documentaries and learning a lot more about reality and Yeah. And I think my brain took me on that journey, and now I've got enough out of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah. I think what I think's great is being able to have conversations like this. But my perspective of it is in the sense that tobacco and alcohol are drugs as well. It's just that certain people have conditioned us to believe they're legal, which is, again, completely fictitious, really. People have made up laws, and these other natural substances, albeit LSD synthesized, but like they're natural substances, these are illegal. And that's something that once I sort of understood that, start to explore a little bit more. But I think it's hugely important to have these conversations so other people have a potentially a different viewpoint, because it's helped me a lot as a person and also in business as well. I believe I've took a lot from my journeys and put that into business. So
you do, because you become a better or the best version of yourself if you use things properly and you're into your mindset and growth and all of that sort of stuff. You will become you might not become just better, but you'll become a better you.
I think you just become more aware.
People, you know?
I think awareness is something. So at the moment, I think the human species is getting more selfish. Like, I find it when you're putting up to a junction, I'm now getting let out less than I was when I was 17. You know, I genuinely believe the world is getting more selfish, and you just think people are putting their blinkers on. And when you open yourself up to those things, I think you become more self-aware, but then also more aware of everything, universe, other people. And I think
100%.
I think that connection is different. I think, and that's where I got it. It was like, yes, I'd created all of reality and all of human history, but what it did is it took me out of me being this individual person plodding along. Again, the materialistic thing for me changed massively as well. It's like I wanted to have a flash Rolex and have these massive houses and blah blah blah. And don't get me wrong, I still want all those things, but my desire for those things is different. It's not like sort of like a status symbol to show off. It's because I actually like those things. It's a nice watch. I would rather have a nice watch 100%. Than a bad one, but not because I want to show off and be like, oh, look what I am, which was me. Definitely 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old me. I wanted a nice watch because I wanted people to be jealous and think, oh, look at him, he thinks he's flash. When everyone would have thought I was a tosser. But now, completely.
It's for your own reasons. Yeah, this is exactly the same for me. So this was why I sold my watch. I had an 18-carat day date, right? And that's like my holy grail watch, the one I want. I understood that a lot of the reason why I liked that was just how people looked at me and thought who I was based on that item. And ayahuasca, again, slowly, and also mushrooms have made me realize that I don't need that item to be the person who I want to be. Like, to be the person who walks into a room and naturally has that sort of energy, you don't need that piece of fucking metal on your wrist.
What's really interesting about it all is, obviously, you and me, Remi, we're connected on Facebook, and I've kind of seen some of the stuff you're doing, which we'll talk about, but we've never actually spoken to each other before.
No.
Right? But how you could call it coincidence or whatever, but I'm very open to like attracting like. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you've got 3 people that have come together on a podcast, 2 of them never spoken before. Yeah, everyone on this podcast seems to be into camper vans. No doubt, you know, if I mention tiny houses, that's a whole nother conversation there altogether. And then ayahuasca and mindset and, you know, growth of consciousness and stuff like that. And when you're open to that sort of stuff, you'll find that those people, and you say it's important to talk about it, other people that want to talk about it or know about it or are into that will start kind of gravitating towards you and your energy as well anyway, you know?
Yeah. What was your experience of ayahuasca then?
So for me, it was, I've always been into kind of my mindset and my self-development and things like that. So, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, all of that sort of stuff from when I was about 17, 18. And I'd do a lot of it myself. And then, you know, I'd go to these kind of business seminars when I had some businesses and all that sort of stuff. And I got to a stage about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I can't remember now, to be honest. Time has kind of just has no meaning this year. I kind of get confused because I've just been at home for a year. So I got to a stage where I felt that I couldn't progress any further in my own kind of mindset and development, self-development. I was struggling to get further, even though I had like a mindset coach and all of that sort of stuff. I've done everything I could kind of physically do. And as I said, like attracts like. There's a couple of people that were kind of on the fringe of my life, you know, like acquaintances. I ended up going to one of their kind of business seminar type things, and we just got talking about it. And it turns out that they had been on a retreat to Colombia with their coach, their business coach. And then they started doing it themselves for their kind of people. Mm-hmm. So there was no pressure. It was just like a conversation about it. You know, it's one of those things that it's very difficult. Tom, you did very well describing what actually happens to you. But it's one of those things where I was going, it's very, very difficult to explain what you see and what you go through until you've done it.
Yeah.
Like you can talk about it and you might just sound crazy or completely unbelievable, but until you've done it, you can't.
Have you done DMT?
That. No, but that is the active ingredient in ayahuasca.
Yeah. But that
as
much
ayahuasca,
shorter.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very, very much a thing where you just cannot explain it. You have to just, it's very difficult. For
me, it was because I've never smoked, I've never taken drugs. It's just not me. I'm not into it. I'm not really for it in my body and stuff like that. But because it was all natural, it's plant medicine, and it's for the growth of the mindset. I wasn't doing it to escape or numb anything. I was doing it to grow, and there's a very,
I think that's really
difference.
important. I think that's a very important point to make.
Very, very big difference. So I went to Colombia to a retreat, and actually I was really lucky. The shaman there was kind of a head nurse, and her husband was kind of a high up in the legal profession, and they both left it all behind to open this retreat in the middle of the jungle somewhere, with no running hot water and all of that sort of stuff. And
love it.
And it was one of those places, and they actually said it was horrendous, that you got like a mattress and cold water showers and stuff like that. And she was like, you're not here to be comfortable. Hell, this money, it's like, you're not here to be comfortable. You're here to do the work.
Yeah.
And when you're uncomfortable and your guard isn't up anymore, that's when things start to happen. So we actually we were in Colombia about 10 days. And I think we were in the retreat for 6. We had 2 days either side. So the first 2 days, kind of getting to know everyone. We stayed somewhere very nice, journaling and talking about, business, because it was kind of a business thing as well.
Yeah.
So everyone there kind of had their own business, and it was about kind of combining personal growth with being able to boost your business and things like that. So then we went into the jungle, and we did 4 ceremonies over the 6 days. So we had first day there just to kind of acclimatize, ceremony the next day, day off, and then 2 more days of ceremonies before going back. And then we went somewhere else in Colombia to like a really nice Airbnb mansion type place, to again kind of decompress, because I think that's quite important as well.
So
is that
important.
if
I was
you
in
are
shock.
literally,
I was definitely in shock.
And that can be a problem, right? Because if you're literally shown your own soul and you start having conversations with yourself, and learning all these kind of deep things about yourself and what you want and what you are and what you aren't, and you don't know how to process that, or don't have someone to guide you to process it in the aftermath, the results can be devastating.
Yeah,
because you can send yourself insane, right? You can go home and completely blow your life up. So that was important for us. So that's what we did, which helped a lot.
Yeah, I think the integration of those types of experience is so difficult. To have that kind of experience and then just jump straight back into the matrix is it's hard. I've done it a couple of times, and I struggle for a few days afterwards to go like, what am I doing, man? Like
well, that was the panic that I had. So when I come out of all of that experience, and then I genuinely was in shock. I could barely speak. I was like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was still in my own head talking to myself. And my panic was that it was permanent. I thought I'd unlock this part of my head, my brain, because obviously the visualizations and all the things that are coming out. And I'm thinking, this isn't going to, now I know that the curtains move. Now I know that the flower patterns are like doing all of this like weird stuff. Now I know that does that. I'm never going to be able to not do it. And then I got quite angry, because then I thought that the people that I was with, they knew that this was permanent and they hadn't told me. So then I was like, you lot need to tell me that. I'm like, you need to tell me that this stops. Because I've got a really important meeting on Wednesday, and I can't sit in this meeting with all these things coming out of me and these people's faces changing. And try and keep a straight face.
Oh man,
Tom's like, I've got a podcast to do.
Yeah.
I'd say that'd be an interesting podcast, wouldn't it? If we all just got out high as a kite for an hour and just all talk then listen back and like, whoa, we delete that one.
Do a creative one, man. Me and Louis have been talking for a while about having a LSD day and having a creative sort of. We've got a few other businesses that we want to do, and like just sort of map them out and have a bit of a creative session on that kind of thing.
Do a Beatles album.
You know what?
It's a lot of interesting stuff around creativity and psychedelics, and like I say again, I think it's helped from the business perspective. I try and put a lot of my experience with those kind of things into who I am as my personal brand and the business. In regards to keeping it honest and authentic, and kind of, but also trying to be different and understand and question why other people are doing things, and we don't have to do it like this, we can be like this. And like, I think for me, like in trying to get into property and stuff, I didn't really see anyone who looks like me either. Do you know what I mean? You don't see many people. Like, I've got quite a few tattoos, and we're fairly young as well. Like, especially around
your
Norfolk.
profile picture on Facebook, mate, you literally look like you just belong on a beach in Hawaii or Bali
Yeah.
or something. Like if you just picked you up and dropped you there, you just blend right in.
But there's something to take out of that. Like that is why property investing is special, because you're not reliant on somebody else's opinion to become successful. Like if I want to become massive in the banking world, like you would struggle with your appearance in banking, because people won't take you seriously. They'll think, oh, he's a hippie, he's out there, he's doing this. But rightly or wrongly, obviously there's a whole other debate. But in property, you decide what properties you're going to buy. You decide what you're going to do with them, and you decide when you sell them, and you make your own future. So people listen to the podcast now from all different walks of life, all different like colors and creeds, etc. But it's them. There's an individual. You make your destiny rather than someone else making it for you, which I think is why
100%
property is that interesting segment of the market that people get excited about.
I think we should move away from the psychedelic thing, but the ayahuasca, one of the kind of things I took from that was that I felt like I could see myself in a film and I was the main star. And it then made me realize exactly what you then said, is that you create your own sort of film and you can be, and I can do whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Do you listen to Audible or do you read?
Audible. I don't.
Okay, cool. So if you haven't, and this one for you as well, Tom, if you haven't listened to it already, there's an amazing Audible book called Stealing Fire.
Stealing Fire.
What I'll do is I'll screenshot it from my thing and I'll send it to you on Facebook.
100%.
All about psychedelics and microdosing and alpha patterns in your brainwaves and all of that sort of stuff, and kind of this getting in the zone. And it talks a lot about Silicon Valley and how those CEOs and top execs microdose for creativity and not to take drugs for the sake of taking drugs, but to take drugs for performance enhancing and mental abilities, right? You'd love it. And then in terms of minimalism, just before we move on to property, which is actually about. Sorry, guys.
I think it's relevant.
About that.
Skip to 43 minutes in and you'll find that. There's a documentary on Netflix called, I think it is literally just called The Minimalist.
Minimalism. I've seen it.
By two guys, right? Again, really, really good.
Kind of love it.
But so let's move on to property. So tell us, you've spoken to us about kind of like some of the projects you did in your own name, almost kind of a little bit of luck. You had a bit of kind of background because you were a plasterer. You were doing it. You made some money. You realised there's money to be made and started looking into it a bit more. And you've said that you're now kind of you almost finished a build from the ground up. You've already found some land for another one, and you've got investors. So those three things. So tell us about this first build. Kind of where it is, what it is, how you found it, how you put that deal together, because finding a plot of land to build on, you can't just do that every day. So tell us from the beginning, where did it come from, where is it, how did you find it, how did you negotiate all of it? Go.
I'll start from the beginning of when me and Tom set up our company, because it kind of all leads into that really. Me and Tom know each other from school. He was a year above me at school. His dad worked at my best friend's dad's garage, so we all kind of knew each other. Hadn't seen each other for probably 15 years. Randomly bumped into each other at a networking event, exchanged business cards. A couple of coffees later, before we knew it, we'd just bought a property together. I'm very much...
Just a reference, it's not me, Tom. That's a different Tom.
No. Yes, Tom Durrell. So we're Durrell and Wolf. I'm the Wolf. So I have Wolf Homes.
And for those of you listening, coffee is literally the property developer's lubricant.
I don't really drink coffee either, man.
Coffee meetings get deals done.
I hate coffee. Can't stand
it. I started to force myself to like it because I was having so many, and I'm like, oh man, I don't even really like it. But so we bought a little semi-detached bungalow. Me and Tom went into business together, set up Durrell and Wolf. We done the refurb project, But while all that was going on, Tom has had a website called Norfolk Land Buyers established for years. Never had anything from it ever for years. Once we set up our company, a few months later, he got a hit from it.
No way.
It's one of those kind of divine timings. Do you know what I mean?
Love that.
That's why like the universe just kind of aligned all these things, strangely enough, without being too woo-woo, for him not to have anything. And then basically we got a hit for this parcel of land, which is the one we've now built on. The guy, he wanted 80 grand for it. It had planning in principle, called PIP for short, which is a lower version of outline planning. Basically, he got that for it for a small single-story 2-bed bungalow. We didn't think it worked at that price. We said to him we'd give him 40 grand cash. We'd be like, we'll buy it now. He said, no, I'm going to take it to auction. He took it to auction and it didn't sell. Not a single person in the room. It was the last one on the rotor, and not a single person in the room. So he then rang us up and said, all right, I'll take 40 grand for it. We then bought it, put in for planning for a 3-bed chalet bungalow. So we've got 3 bedrooms in the loft. We got planning for that. So straight away, we already got a planning gain uplift.
Fantastic.
But for 40,000, I don't know what the areas are like with you guys, but in Norwich, you cannot buy anything for 40,000, like nothing. A garage is 20-25 grand.
What's really good about that is you did your numbers to start with. And that's a really important lesson from day dot. It was 80 grand. You did your numbers. It didn't work.
No.
You told him it didn't work. But there's a couple of things you did there which was really good, right? So some people will say, oh, it doesn't work, and they just forget about it. Everything works. Every single deal works at the right price.
Yeah.
And it worked at 40. So it's really, really important that if for you guys listening, if you're running numbers on deals, run the numbers until you find the price that works and put that in as your offer. Yeah. Because the worst they can say is no, which is exactly what happened to you. And then guess what? You just sat patiently waiting. You got the call.
And it's a numbers game. Like I'm a salesman through and through, and everything that we've ever been taught is a numbers game. If you bang in the phones, if you pick up the phone 100 times and every 100th call could be a sale, then you ring another 100 people and you ring another 100 people. So if you put in offers, no, obviously don't be silly and just put in offers willy-nilly and that don't make sense because you're going to damage your reputation. But that one deal is not going to be the only ever deal that ever exists. Do you know what I mean? So you, like I said, do your numbers, put the offer in, doesn't work, move on, find another one.
Yeah, but we were lucky. I say lucky. I always say lucky, but I don't really mean it. It's just me being kind of modest, I suppose. But like we'd put in the work. From doing our first refurb, we put out a lot of content on social media. We got some professional videos done. We had a bit of our own vibe. A lot of people were liking what we were doing. From that, we built a relationship with a planning consultant through another friend who's got a building company and development company, put us on to this guy. So before we even bought the plot, our planning consultant has told us that he's 90% sure he'd be able to get us a 3-bed chalet bungalow on there. So we were going into that deal with confidence that 1, it works at 40,000, but 2, we should get a planning uplift on this, and we're just doubling down on that working at 40,000 basically. So we kind of mitigated that before we even purchased it. And then we got the planning and built it. Yeah.
Nice. Because the thing is, everything is risk, but it's risk mitigation and how much risk. So you knew it worked at 40 to get what was already there.
Yeah.
But that little cherry, that little bonus was there as well. And whether you got it or not, you weren't relying on that to get the deal to work.
I'm glad we did get it because the build worked out to be more expensive than we expected. We got a pretty complicated roof, having bedrooms in the loft and 2 bathrooms up there. We had a fairly complicated roof, so that cost us a little bit more than we kind of anticipated. But yeah, so having that plan and uplift was really helpful.
Would the deal still have worked? Would you still have made money if you didn't get that uplift, considering the extra costs and stuff?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure because we haven't had a valuation on what would have been there now, if that makes sense. Like we've obviously only had ours valued. We hadn't said to him, oh, what would it be if it was a 2-bed? But I think there still would have been. So we got that plot for 40,000. We had our investors fund the purchase. They get a return on their money. So the land will stand us around 50,000 by the time we pay them back. We borrowed 45 to cover our fees and stuff, planning fees. So the land will cost us around 50,000 by that time. The build is not yet finished, but we're looking at around about 160,000 build. Again, funded by investors, a little bit funded by ourselves. I think we're putting about 30 grand.
Did you ever raise traditional finance, or is it all through?
No,
personal?
all through private investors at the moment, which we did try and go down a more institutional route, but they absolutely slated us on the revaluations. Didn't want to know, to be honest. Is what it is.
And what has it been valued at?
Well, to be honest, we went down the route for the refurb institutional money, but it was such a nightmare. We had to pay £1,400 for a valuation for them to come out and say, no, we don't want to lend you. And it turned out we went down the pub with the investor. He came and looked at the property with his mate, who's a surveyor, went down the pub, had a coffee. He said, yeah, sent us the money the next week, almost. It weren't that easy. I'm not, but considering what the banks and the bridging companies wanted, yeah, we pay more, but it's the ease of transaction for us.
And it's nice to pay, and it's nice to pay a return to an individual rather than back into a bank anyway. Do you know what I mean?
I don't want to go down that route. But,
that's a whole nother debate.
Yeah, but very much so, man. Yeah, very much so. I'd rather pay more to individuals than banks. But so the new build, so the build was about 160-ish, and we have sold it. We think we're having a few, but for 325.
Oh, well done.
So yeah, that's a nice return for the company. Our refurb we done. We didn't really earn a lot of money. We both went into that. We put a lot of our own time in it for nothing. But the whole point of that was to gain trust from investors and also put a lot of content out there and build ourselves a little brand.
Yep.
Which actually, one, has paid off with some of the relationships we've formed, but also the next plot we've now bought, we got a direct email, pre-market, basically. So it's off market from Sowerby, someone who has followed me. She knows what we're up to, asked if we're interested. And then it transpires we've now bought the plot. So that has paid dividends, that early work of putting in all the work for free, almost, like not going into the deal thinking, oh, we want a financial freedom, all that. It's like, no, this is a business like any other business. So we've put in our own time, our own money, and it's more for the long-term gain than that fiscal return in the first few months. It's the bigger picture, man. It's the bigger picture.
And you, just going back slightly, you said a phrase when you were talking about getting the investor, having a coffee down the pub. So there was a few things there that's important, I think, for the listeners, which I'm going to pick up on.
Yeah.
Is I've said it before when I've been talking to Tom, and I'll say it until I'm literally blue in the face. Everything is relationships. And that's the word that you used, right? So you knew the surveyor, who knew the investor. The surveyor believed in you and your deal. So would have said that to the investor. So you've got that warm lead there. You go along as you and your authentic self. And if they don't want to work with you because of who you are or how you operate, that's not something you want to work with anyway. You'll always attract the people to work with that are the types of people you want to work with, right? So there's that relationship building there, which is really, really important. And if you return that guy's money, or when you return that guy's money with his profit and a successful deal, he's going to want to invest in you again, right?
And he's going to have mates that are going to want to do it as well.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
He's actually investing in the next development. So yeah, we're like,
there you go.
There you go.
And then the other thing you said is ease of transaction. And again, so we're talking private investment versus traditional funding.
Yeah.
Either way, right? Ease of transaction is something people have got to get their heads around how important it is. And if I use bridging as an example, because that's what you were talking about here, I kind of say in my head, and when I kind of explain it to people, I draw like a little triangle, right? So you've got 3 points on the triangle. You've got the speed, you've got the rate, and you've got how many hoops you want to jump through, how many questions do you want to be asked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you can't have all three.
No.
Okay. So if you want speed, if you want that money ASAP with a bridging lender that's going to get it done, you're going to sacrifice a little bit on the rate, probably, right? If you want a great rate, a really, really low rate, you might have to jump through some hoops, or it might take a little bit longer. You're going to really struggle to get all three. So sometimes paying a little bit more is worth it because it's less of a headache. You know, there's less mistakes. You know, it's going to make the whole thing more enjoyable. And going back to kind of our thoughts on income and money and stuff, you know, what's the difference? if you're going to make 125,000 on this deal, or if you're going to make 115,000 on this deal, but it's going to be 10 times easier and more enjoyable, I'm always taking the 115, and I think you probably would as well.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
So for you guys listening, really, really important. Sometimes paying a higher rate or doing it privately or whatever is worth it. It is actually worth it.
It's a different school of
experience.
thought, isn't it? Because there'll be business leaders out there that will literally crucify us for saying that, and they'll be like, no, you need to squeeze every single penny out of it. If you can make an extra £5 on 150 grand, then you make that extra £5. I'm not about that. I want a nice, easy life. I want to be happy, and I just want everything just to work. And I've always been probably a bit guilty as well, being maybe too generous sometimes, bringing people in and making things as even as I can. But and I'm not going to change. I've had my toes burnt on it, but I'm not going to change. That is me as an individual. And if it happens again, it happens again. But I will always, I'm true to myself that I want to be a generous person.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this is it's just our opinion.
Yeah.
It's just three votes.
My opinion's right, mate.
It's 2020. An opinion is a fact.
Fact. Yeah. No, but it's going back on what you said. I think it's important to share with people who are looking to maybe do things. I still class myself as I'm trying to get into property. I have a little bit of an imposter syndrome calling myself a developer. But apparently my friends tell me I should call myself one, but like, I don't know.
We mentioned it before you come on. So before you think, so Rob actually said he loves that.
Yeah.
Because we would completely agree with your friends that you are a developer. You're in it, you're making money, you've got future projects, you've got current projects. But I love the humbleness of what it shows to me is that you've got a bigger goal. Is what you're doing now isn't you.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation in the sense that I don't see myself who I see myself as. So certain people will say to me, oh, you guys have done really well in the last year or so. But I'm like, to me, it's nothing because I see where we are going to be.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say I was just going to touch on when you said about the relationship thing and authenticity. I don't want to get too into this or offend anyone, but there's a lot of property education going around. And I got involved with a company. You guys were speaking to someone recently actually in that company, but I found it very, 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 very disingenuous. And I don't ultimately believe in a lot of the things that they're teaching people. I think it might have worked 20 years ago or 10 years ago when these guys started, but I don't, like, for example, sending hundreds and hundreds of letters out in coloured envelopes. I personally think that people who have money are smart enough to have made that money. They're not going to fall for a pretty coloured envelope. Like, I think people can see through bullshit. So being yourself is way, way more important than sending 300 coloured envelopes out. Like, be yourself when you're talking to investors, when you're meeting agents. I've done nothing. Me and Tom have done nothing but be honest and open. When we go to agents, when we first started a year or so ago, we would tell them, we would be like, look, we have investors, but this is our first purchase. So bear with us. When we speak to solicitors, we say, can we make sure this is our first purchase as a company? Can we, like, we're very, very open, and we've had almost nothing but good experiences of that, opposed to trying to be someone who you're not. And I'm such a believer in that humbleness and that vulnerability will pay off, rather than trying to put yourself out there as a bank beat and return, like all these buzzwords that everyone uses because they're being told to use by education companies. I just think, me standing now as an outsider, I would see through that, and I'm nobody. So put yourself in a position of someone who's achieved a lot in their life. Are they going to look at someone, and because you've got bank beat and returns in your bio, do they find you investable? Me personally, I think no, because you're not yourself. And I just think that's so powerful in being yourself and authentic. But at the same time, you do have to sell yourself, and that is part of it. But
people will invest in people. People invest in people.
100%. And what I bring to the table is I'm a grafter, I'm a hard worker, I'm a hustler. I'll get stuff done. I'll make it work. I can show my previous examples of my projects. I like certain design aspects. Do you know what I mean? It's all that, and the passion for property as well. Like, and that comes across when you talk naturally, and that's hard to teach someone that by on a 3-day course, for example? Like,
Yeah,
you know
I think I partially agree. Only because I think you have found what works for you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's from your viewpoint, that works. The thing is, for some people, sending 300 colored envelopes isn't going to work. They won't get a single bite. But then for some people, sending 300 colored envelopes, they might get 2 or 3 leads. And if they can talk to those 2 or 3 leads and get a deal out of it, then technically it's worked for them, right?
100%. The difference is I don't sell £3,000 courses telling people to do that.
Fair enough.
There's a big thing at the moment with fake gurus, isn't there? I think there's me and Rob have had chats about it, because there's what's the guy's name that you
Mike Winner.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and
he's really interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
It's almost as if it's sort of become a beast in itself. So again, dial back 5 years, 10 years. These property courses were educating people on how to get involved in property.
Apparently, they were really, really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
really
and Rob's been on one. He's done a mastermind. He's done all of it.
I've done a few.
But we're talking 5-6 years ago, Rob. A bit sooner than that.
Not that long ago. Yeah, maybe.
But again, a few years ago. I'd say probably it's the last maybe 18 months that we've really seen this rise of fake guru. And I think what's happening is people are seeing the success of the established courses and trainers. And then they're saying, well, I can do this. I've been on the course. I could just regurgitate what I've learned. Then they're spewing their own stuff. Then the established courses have then got to try and keep up with the new people that are going. And then you get into that YouTube race where I'm going to be more out there than you. Then I'm going to be more extreme than you. Then I'm going to be more, by the time I'm going to 10x your money.
Yeah. Yeah. £1,000, I'll give you $1 million back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then what ends up happening, like it does with YouTubers, is people end up people die at the end of the day. Like it gets as severe as that. Like there's been deaths,
suicide,
and it's horrific, and it's and it is complete mirror image of what happens on YouTube with these kids that need to do a more extreme video than their mate. I read something the other day about someone that they did a video where they were shooting like themselves with like some Bibles. Bullet obviously goes straight through the Bibles, kills him. I was like, what are you doing? But we're talking about these extremes.
Yeah.
And what's happening is people need to go one above, and then they lose where they've come from.
Yeah.
All because they're trying to make money for potentially the wrong reasons.
Yeah, there's another interesting point is for the wrong reasons is why you're making the money. Like I generally love what I do. Money, although I haven't actually been paid from. I got 3 assets going through conveyancing at the moment, so I'm waiting for my payday. But like, money's just a byproduct, man. I generally love what we do. But another thing I'd like to touch on is like areas. So in Norwich, for example, the whole buy, refurb, refinance model thus far is just proven almost impossible.
Why?
I know a lot of people in Norwich is pretty small. No one manages to do it who I know is active and buying stuff because of the house prices and the yields and just the activity. So houses come on and like you're competing against people who will buy that house for their home. So they're not looking at the numbers from a business perspective. Yeah. We look and offer on tons. We've got a little mastermind of people and we're all in the same boat. And that's a dream for us. Like we've got all the things in place in regards to finance, build teams, management to be able to do these all day, every day. We could do one a month, non-stop if we could buy them.
Okay, so hold on. So for the listeners, me and Tom, we know exactly what you're talking about, what your issue is when you're saying buy, refurb, refinance, or BRR as the buzz phrase is. When you say it's not possible,
sorry, do you mean pull the money out? I mean pulling all the money out.
That's where I was going.
There's no money down, kind of.
Yeah. So what Remi's talking about is when you buy a property that needs work doing to it, and the cost of buying that property, doing it up, all your other costs such as stamp duty, finance, etc., is then about 75% of the new value, which means when you come to refinance on a buy-to-let product at 75% of what it's now worth, you get back all the money you put in. So that's the gold standard of BRR or buy, refurb, refinance is to recycle all of your cash back out to put into the next one. So what you're saying is in Norwich, it's not possible, or you haven't found
I'm not
deals.
saying it's not possible. I don't like using that phrase. I shouldn't have done, but like it's extremely, extremely difficult
to find the properties to be able to do that with.
Yeah. So we originally set out to kind of do that, to be honest. And then once we got into it, once we're in it, it's just proven difficult to hold stuff. We're not in position. We're just a couple of young lads who are working hard. We don't come from a 6-figure corporate background. We don't have that kind of backing, so to speak. So we're not in a position at the moment where we can do something like that and maybe leave 50 grand into an HMO or anything. So
if we use that as an example, so guys, so let's say we take Remi's property that he's doing now, he's going to make about 125,000. So if he took that and then tried to do the buy, refurb, refinance strategy in Norwich and left 50 grand in each one, he's going to get 2.5 properties before he's out of cash, right? So this is where, and this comes back to some of this training as well, right? So I think BRR is great and it works. And so for instance, what you could say, you could argue the other side of the coin for you, Remi, is that in Norwich it would work, but you've got to put in a lower offer. But what you're saying is you can't do that because you're competing against people that want to buy to live in it and they're willing to pay market price, or even at the moment in the market, probably pay a little bit more. Right? It's hot market right now. So I totally get it because I'm struggling to find deals that work because I like to get all my money out as well, right?
Yeah, that's the dream.
So I think some of the issues with training and the way it's phrased is that buy, refurb, refinance to recycle 100% of your finance, they're everywhere. They grow on trees. You know, there's 2 per street, and there isn't. So getting all your money out is gold standard. But then again, if you were able to find deals where you left 20 grand in each one, well, all of a sudden you're going to get 6 before you're out of money. So it starts to make a difference. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, technically looking at the numbers of our new build, that would work, but it wouldn't because the rent where it is, it's in the Norfolk countryside. It's not going to be an HMO. It's not going to be the rent would cover the mortgage. Not much more really. I mean, it would probably make a little bit, but it wouldn't be worth leaving that amount of money in. You'd be better off putting that money to other uses.
So you'd be leaving 125 grand stationary, not really making you anything. And not grow. Well, you might get some capital growth over time. But you're saying, you know, you've done the numbers, you're better off selling that, realizing that 125 in cash and reinvesting that elsewhere.
Yeah, basically, So it's one of the main challenges for me and something that I haven't really shared actually, but we've been talking about recently is I don't have much desire to be a landlord. I believe that will happen just through what we do, but I don't really have a desire to. Again, that's a whole nother conversation, but I want to be a property developer. So the hardest thing for me has been surviving the time it takes to buy the land, get the plan and build it and sell it. So that's why a lot of people that you invest, you build up a little portfolio, you've got some income, then you get into the development. I've kind of just held my nose and jumped in at the deep end, to be honest. I was fortunate enough where I've had some money to tide me over. That's pretty much gone now. I'm on the breadline. I'm waiting. You're the
brokest, richest property developer that we've had on the.
I say this all the time. Yeah. I'm the poorest developer you'll meet. I promise you. Once these, so we've got 3 going through conveyancing at the moment, and then we'll have the arena up and running next year as well. It'll be all right in the end, and that'll be my kind of that'll be my beginning of the new beginning. But
you're doing what a lot of people aren't willing to do. A lot of people, again,
this is what I was going to say. Yeah,
we can talk training companies. We could talk, just human nature in general. People are very impatient. They want it now. We've got fast food. We've got fast drinks. We've got fast internet. We've got fast movies. It's instant. And people seem to think that with property as well, it's going to be easy to make money fast. And
it's because of the numbers. I think it's because if you say to someone, I bought something for 150 and I sold it for 250, so I made 100 grand. And in your head, you're thinking, well, that's a quick 100 grand. Like you've just done one property, but it takes so long to. It's a get rich slow scheme, isn't it?
Yeah,
is the best way to describe it.
There are people
100%.
That make money quickly.
Of course,
And they're like, selling a deal or being a middleman somehow, sourcing or rent to rent. You can make cash flow quickly, but
it's tough, man.
It's not going to be easy.
I don't think it's that.
Be easy.
I think this year for me has made me question more of my own beliefs. And basically, because of this whole fake news thing and everything, like the only thing I know is real is what I personally experience. Even to the stupidest thing, I don't know anything is real unless I experience it. So I can only experience things that people close to me are experiencing. So my business partner has had serviced accommodation units and gave them up. They just weren't that. I've got a friend who does serviced accommodation. He left his job and he's doing really well from it, but it's taken him well over a year to establish a good business. And he puts in astronomical hours every week to create a cash flow and business. So I think I can only go off that. But going back to what you were saying about, like, I moved back to I'm living in my mum and dad's living room, mate. Like I'm a property developer living at my mum and dad's in the living room. Like I'm doing the things that most people are willing to sacrifice. I don't have a car. I've got a van. It's a 10, 11-year-old van. Like I haven't been on holiday for 2 years. Like these are the things I think people aren't willing to often sacrifice in order to.
Yeah. And not only that, people aren't, people aren't willing to sacrifice it to get to where they want to be. They want it now. But also what annoys me a little bit is there's so many, and Tom, you'll agree because we've had this conversation, so many people on Facebook that are promoting all the best bit. Facebook and Instagram is the highlight reel of your life. They're only going to show you that.
Only
going to show you the good
TM.
This is why I try and be pretty open on social media, man.
But that's what people need to hear, because then they're going in with their eyes more open.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why I love talking to you now. Do you know, like, because it's very easy for us to find guests that are multi-millionaires and they've hit the absolute peak, which is an interesting story. Don't get me wrong. We all want to learn how people got there, but to talk to someone who is getting there and is experienced, because when you talk to someone, they say, yeah, when I started, I was living in my parents' like basement type scenario.
Yeah.
You are doing that right now, and you've got projects and you're doing very, very well, but they're two sides of a coin, aren't they? They're like,
it's very polarized, and I try and. It's very easy. It would be so easy for me to come across very wealthy on social media. So easy. Like, look at the things we're doing. Like, it would be so easy. But it would just be so disingenuous. And I don't think that fuels any good mental health issues for people or myself. Like, do you know what I mean?
And you are like, again, we can get hippie about it again, but you're putting stuff out into the ether or whatever. You need to be comfortable that the energy you're putting out there is positive, because again, it is very easy to be on a beach somewhere and take pictures of this and that and do all these amazing things, but if you're doing it all on credit cards and you're living to the absolute edge, which I've done that, like I'm not pretending that I've not done that, but it's not real. Do you know? And someone could be watching your life and thinking they're always doing these amazing things, they're doing these amazing things. You could be damaging someone. Someone could be sitting at home that's literally thinking, why I'm really struggling.
That's exactly what I think. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm weird.
So Remi, when are you going to start selling your course?
When's the 10 steps to be Remi?
Yeah, I'm working through Mike Winnett's Entrepreneur Blueprint, and I'll be releasing that soon, man.
Do you know what?
You'll be my first punter, Rob.
Yes, I mean, you've got me. But do you know what I really liked? I watched one of his videos where he got like an Amazon best-selling book, and like every page was just is a blank page. This is a blank page. It's really clever how he decomposes, sales funnels and how it all works and things like that.
I bought that book actually.
The actual book.
Yeah,
with the blank pages.
Yeah, just to support and for a laugh, really. But it got taken down, didn't it? But he basically proved that anyone. So when you see anyone who says they're an Amazon bestseller, he proved that anyone can literally do it. It's just about he literally tells you how to do it. So I know people who say, I've got an Amazon best-selling book, and in my head, my eyes just rolling back now. Like, do you know what I mean?
They probably sold like tens of millions of books and really proud of themselves. And
fuck off.
But that's the problem, right? There are some truly genuine people out there who are good at what they do. They are worth what they're charging. They do help people, etc., right? And it's the same with everything, isn't it? There's a few bad eggs, say, that then give you that viewpoint of everyone.
Yeah. Well,
a bit like when I was in the police and I had a viewpoint of everyone's a knobhead, because you know, there's a few bad eggs that spoil my viewpoint of humanity for everyone. Same with this sort of stuff as well, right? There's a few people that are gonna, you know, make everyone think everything is a con.
Well, I think I've fell victim to that because I got sucked. I was fortunate enough because I kicked off. I got my money back from Progressive, but like no one else really does. But that's left me with a bad taste in my mouth. So I just presume everyone's. Do you know what I mean? So that is a problem in itself. But I'm aware of that. But yeah.
so we're pretty much up to modern day. So what's the goal? What's your ultimate, like, where do you see yourself? What are you working towards?
Well, we did say I'd never want to be like as big as Persimmon Homes or anything like that. I've got no interest in that amount of wealth. It doesn't interest me at all. But we sort of said a couple of developments of maybe 5 units a year. So like maybe 10 units a year. So that sort of size would be a nice size for us. And then as a business, and then personally, I like just doing different stuff. So for me, I'm just trying to get to a point where I have a little bit of freedom in regards to my day-to-day, my income. It gives me the ability to then just carry on creating, doing more businesses, different stuff as well. And just having that freedom to be able to, I don't want a big house. I want an off-grid house. I don't believe that water and electricity should be profited from. I want to be off-grid and not paying money into those kind of establishments. And also help. Ideally, what I'd like to do is build very sustainable homes out of actually sustainable natural materials, but also when the person buys it, they then don't have a bill for the rest of their life. So it provides its own water and electricity and heat. That's my goal as a development company. So I'm just
very cool. It's
very in the background doing research on that, looking at different building methods and materials. Cob's a very interesting one for me. But yeah, that's ultimately where I'd like to go. The problem I've found so far is we have investors, but none potentially willing to maybe jump into something as new and unknown as that. Let's face it, people like bricks and mortar. It's safe as houses. Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
that's where I'll go.
If you build a little community of tiny homes, put me on the list for one of them. There.
We did
Done.
a really interesting interview in the first season with a guy called Charlie Luxton. He's an architectural designer and really, really interesting. A lot of that was about sustainability. And they did a localized project in like Oxford way. And it was old, I think it was old MOD grounds. They were just like brownfield type scenario. And what they did is they did passports. So each plot of land was not a tiny home, but small houses, and they would have development passports. So essentially, you can build whatever you want within this remit. But that was their ultimate goal, was to build this community, like saying about the community of these houses where people have built their own sustainable houses within this community. And it's funny how like things go around full circle, because if you think right back to like the beginning of human history, where we were in small, tight knit communities. And then we built these
mud houses.
Yeah, massive cities. And now we're going, actually, do you know what? We want to be human again.
Yeah. I find it really interesting. It's a thought experiment, well, not an experiment, but like, so for example, if I bought myself some woodland, let's say, with my own money, and I get the title to own this land, it's illegal for me to live completely naturally and off that land. It's illegal, to the point where they would come and take that down because I haven't built out of materials that they are authorizing. Like, I just find that concept, I can't even get my head around it. Like,
I have the same conversation with myself.
Any sense whatsoever. So my goal from that perspective is to try and make it mainstream. Like, why can't we build a couple of nice cob-built semi-detached houses that run themselves, but also somehow tying that into the system that they want us to be in. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's where I'd like to be. Now, actually, let me rephrase that. That's where I will be.
That's where we will be. I love that.
Probably about 5 years, I think I'll be there, and I'll be able to put enough of my own money into, unless I can find a super rich hippie who wants to support us. I
need a few more years, mate.
Yeah, fine. We'll catch up in a couple of years.
Come back in a couple of years and I'll make
you. Love it. Anyway, should we do an arena tour?
I was going to say, we've been chatting for ages.
I can talk a lot, man. I was worried.
No, honestly, I was going to say, Sorry, I was saying I've so enjoyed this. It's been one of my favorite podcasts. I think
It's
where
been
we've
brilliant,
gone off of so many tangents and talked about more than, like I said, bricks and mortar and investing and actually about humans and stuff. This is where I find this is the interesting stuff for me. So thank you so much, Remi.
Yeah.
So
no worries,
for
mate.
those of
It's
you
been
that are
a
listening, Remi's now got the camera and he's going to take us on a tour around the arena that he's doing. But Remi, for those that are only listening rather than watching on YouTube, can you kind of explain what you've built here, what you're doing,
Yeah.
what it's costing, why
Yeah.
you're doing it, why this?
Yeah.
'Cause this is completely different to kind of everything else we've spoken about.
It is, yeah. So as I mentioned before, I'm not that interested in being a landlord. So some of the profits I'd like to do other businesses with. Me and Tom are now connected through a mutual friend, Louis. They have a football academy, and they had this idea. This isn't my idea or anything. This is what these guys put together. I'm just involved in the project as an investor and also trying to do the work. It's been a learning curve for me, as you guys probably know. Doing a commercial thing like this is completely different to renovating a little house or even building a house. It's new territory. It might not seem it to certain people, but to me it is new territory. But what we've done, we've converted a completely unused derelict 17,500 square foot warehouse into an indoor football sports facility. We've got a gym as well, a boxing gym and a physio in here as well. So that's pretty much what we're doing. The reason is that basically there's no indoor facility in Norwich, and also the guys' football academy is growing and growing and growing, and they're struggling to get their pitches hiring from goals and stuff like that. And they spend a lot of money a month, and they were like, well, why don't we spend that in our own company, basically, which makes complete sense. And having trust in, when Louis came to me with the idea, I just said, I'm in.
I did the same.
yeah. So me and Tom are now business partners, I suppose. And
this is Tom on the podcast, Tom now, right?
It is Tom on the podcast, Tom.
Yeah, so I've known Louis for years and years, and obviously I'm a chairman of a football club myself, and really believe in youth football and all the good that it does. And then when I saw Louis put some stuff on Instagram about what you guys are doing there, I was like, Louis, how do I get involved in this?
Yeah, man. So we'll take you through. This is the entrance, basically. We've got our office in here, which I've just done the podcast from. This is the reception area. We've got all the 4G down here, which is what we had left over. But we're going to take this up and not have this as the floor. It's not very practical. But yeah, basically what we've done is we've refurbed it to an industrial kind of theme. So we've got all the exposed brick here. We've just had the arena quote hand painted on this wall here.
I tell you, just a touch on that. So when I went up, not Friday, just gone the Friday before. So the guy was doing the hand painting. So for those that are listening, if you imagine there's a wall and then there's a massive quote, and this guy literally had a paintbrush and he was painting the letters, and it looks like he's printed it on a computer. It's so perfect and precise. And I was like, how you do that? It's like mind blowing.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. But for those listening, it's the arena quote, the Roosevelt arena quote about the man in the arena. And that's what the company's named after. It's called the Arena.
Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, let's do it. So, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of the high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So, man, how powerful is that?
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, so here we are. We're stepping into the gym. You can't quite see him. If I walk forward, you'll see we've got some crystal-style doors here going into the gym. The glass hasn't been put in yet. But it's all black and industrial theme. We've got OSB framing around here in the gym. Got all punch bags, water bags here. Boxing ring's going to go here. That's coming on the 10th, I believe, unless it's, again, we've got the exposed brickwork here. We've got all artwork on the windows.
That's a portrait of Tom there, isn't it?
Where are we?
Me on a good day.
Which one? I don't know if you
me
can see
on
that
LSD.
yeah, very much an LSD painting. So yeah, we've got a little hallway here.
Oh, just pop back a quick sec, Remy. So
Yeah.
when I was putting it, so Bobby was saying that right now on the screen, just to the left with these magazines. So they're all old boxing programs.
Yeah.
And he bought them off eBay from this guy, and he was like, "Are you going to take good care of him?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take good care of him." And he's bought them all to pieces, and he put them up as like a collage. But it looks incredible, and it means
does look cool.
enjoy it.
Looks really cool. And he's got, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you see, he's got some old bags and boots and gloves up the top. I don't know if you can see him, but hanging over, you know, like in the old American films, you see him slung over the telephone.
Yeah.
Basically done that over the rafters.
Oh, amazing.
We're now starting work in the bathroom, so there's not loads to see there, but this is the corridor. So we've got the corrugated metal sheeting, again, the OSB with a black stripe, leading into the CAF area down here. So the CAF serving hatch is here. It's going to be plant-based, healthy snacks and drinks and smoothies and stuff like that. And then on to the Field of Dreams, basically.
That looks just huge.
Yeah.
For those that obviously you listening,
it's
go
pretty
to
big.
Look at this. It is massive. I've never seen so much like turf in my life.
What's the Instagram, Remy, for anyone who wants to look at the pictures?
We've got the Instagram is the Arena NR7. And that'll have all the pictures and some of the update videos on. Yeah, it's a 4G pitch. It's 55 tons of material put down here. So it's basically laid down, and they put sand down, and then these little rubber pellets that creates the pitch. Yeah. We've got Bobby over there doing an online fitness course until his gym opens. But yeah, and then here today, who has been patiently waiting to do the cutting. We've got Ryan just putting together the so with a fence separating the pitch from the waiting area, and that's basically it here. Yeah,
amazing.
We've got over there is the physio room, which we built on as an added extra, so that's rented out full time to Replay Sports Clinic. Again, we've got an old sofa here. That was going to go in a skip from a pub, but we reused that in the corner here. But yeah, so that's pretty much what we're up to at the moment. We're going to have four TVs up here showing each of the pictures eventually, but that's going to be sort of a later stage.
I think it's going to be a trip to Norwich when it's done, Tom.
Oh,
little jolly up to Norwich.
100%. Yeah, I'm buzzing to get my boots on.
Do you know what, Ryan? All good, mate. Thanks. On the 27th of January, I've organised a little business networking event called Hustlers. And basically, it's going to be a early morning start, but a boxing training session, and then followed by healthy, plant-based smoothie and breakfast. So it's on the 27th of January if you guys want to pop down.
Tom, do you reckon your missus will let us have the van?
Yeah, I reckon.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be wicked.
Do it. That'd be amazing.
And then before we say goodbye, Remy, so how can people get in touch with you? What's your socials and stuff?
Mainly, I hang out on Instagram. I am Remi Uncommon on Instagram. And then on Facebook, just Remi Coghiel. We've got Durrell and Wolf Facebook page as well. So yeah, if anyone wants anything, if I can help anyone at all, I'm always around, always up for a chat. But yeah, so just going back actually to the arena. So the lease on this is about 30 grand a year-ish. And we're spending in total, I mean, it's not finished yet. I think the total project cost might be around 100, just over 100 grand, 120 grand. And it's looking like a very good business, to be honest. A very good business.
Really strong.
Yeah, really strong. We've got we're already fully occupied between 5 and 8 every night. We've got we've got the rent on the physio room and the rent on the gym from day one as well. So from day one when we open, we'll be pretty much already running at a very small profit, and that's without any other bookings. So yeah, as Tom knows, the projection is looking like a pretty good business. And the goal of this is to have 10 of these in 10 years, man. Let's take this nationwide, basically, and have our own. We'll be like the new goals.
Yeah, I love
But
it.
it is
I
fucking
do,
freezing in here, by the
Yeah.
way. It's indoor, but it's still cold, man. It's still cold.
Now we'll leave you to it, mate. Yeah, we've taken plenty of your time. Thank you so much, Remi. I really, really enjoyed that, mate. That was
That's
banging.
been good. Good to have a proper chat with you, man. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
But,
Remi, thank you very much. It was honestly really, really, really interesting stuff that we spoke about. Really enjoyed it.
We'll have to have another one some point in the future.
Yeah,
I'm up
definitely.
for
We'll
it.
do one.
I'm up
We'll
for
do
it.
one in 10 years when we got 10 arenas.
Oh, mate, let's not wait 10 years. But let's make it 5 then.
Yeah, let's do it. Looking forward to it.
All right, man.
Cheers, man. Catch you later.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Property Investors Podcast. The information contained in the podcast is not to be used as financial advice. Everybody's situations and goals are different, and you should always complete your own due diligence on investments and seek personalised financial advice from a qualified person. Feel free to contact the show for professional recommendations. Visit propertyinvestorspodcast.com.